Good morning, everyone. It's Charmaine Hammond. I'm really excited to be here today talking about a really important topic, especially in today's financial climate in Canada specifically. We're talking about how to raise funds for your organization. And I know lots of you that are on the webinar today either work for a social profit or nonprofit organization or charity. Some of you volunteer, you're board members, you are committee members, you have charities or nonprofits that you're so passionate about and want to help them raise funds. You might just be coming on for your own interest because you're excited about the topic or because you love our guest, Rochelle. and so we really appreciate you joining us. And I would love to give a big shout out today to one of the organizations that I really appreciate, and that's Fuse Social, fusesocial.ca in Fort McMurray. We've been working together to bring innovative information and capacity building information to social profit organizations. And I really appreciate the work they're doing in helping organizations think big and be very innovative in all aspects of their service delivery, including raising funds. Now, before I introduce Rochelle, let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I've been involved in the fundraising world. Now, initially, my first career, some of you have heard this before, but my first career was in the correctional worker system. I was a jail guard, a correctional officer in Ontario. So I didn't have to worry about raising funds or fundraising, and it was a government job, of course. So when I went to my first nonprofit organization, it was a custody facility for young offenders. That's where I started to really learn about the importance of community relationships and how to build donors and community relationships to be able to support your projects, fundraising. And then I became an executive director of a social profit organization in Fort McMurray, Alberta, and started to learn about actually having to raise funds. Then an interesting turn of the table. I secured a job with the provincial government, and I was the person who gave out money. That was so fun. I was the contract manager and actually funded social profit nonprofit organizations. And that was fantastic learning for me, really good learning about the RFP process, request for proposals, which many of you are very familiar with. It also helped me understand, though, how to think innovatively about bridging the gap between the money that you currently have in your organization and the money that you need to have to be sustainable and build capacity. Now, when I opened my own business in 1997, I started sponsoring a lot of nonprofits and helping them with their fundraising. And nonprofit organizations, social profit organizations, are close to half of my current clients. I'm now a professional speaker, and I do training as well in corporations, helping them build resilient teams, strong leadership, and helping them learn about conflict resolution. And I get the opportunity to work with lots of nonprofits. So as we get started here, while I get ready to introduce Rochelle, who I just love what she's doing in the world to help nonprofit organizations, there is a chat box. So go on and let us know who you are and where you're from. I'm going to be checking the chat box frequently because I know that as Rochelle starts sharing information and we start talking about fundraising and different strategies that could work for you, that's going to create questions for you, but we'd also love to hear what you're doing in your organization or the ideas that you have that could help other people. So use the chat box. I'll be checking in there, and I think we get ready to rock and roll. How about you, Rochelle? You ready?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so Rochelle is the founder and CEO of Shop and Share. That's all one word, shopandshare.ca. I've actually posted the website in the chat box, so you can go right there and look at it while we're talking. And she's a busy mom. She's a successful entrepreneur, really successful business owner, and the mom of 2 teenage daughters. Now, there's a really neat backstory to why she started shopandshare.ca. And that was because, like many of you, she was getting tired of spending hours and hours and hours helping raise funds for the local schools, sports programs, and using, I guess, what we would call traditional fundraising methods. And she knew that people were tired of going door to door and asking friends and family to support the different fundraising projects. And she knew that volunteer time was extremely valuable. And she was determined determined to create an easy, ongoing fundraiser that every Canadian nonprofit group could use to bring in much needed funds around the year. Rochelle's entrepreneurial background and her business background and spirit, her formal education in business management, and years of practicing as a business owner really helped her turn her idea into a reality. And so shopandshare.ca was actually launched in the summer of 2009. And I love this story, Rochelle, because this is the journey for so many entrepreneurs. They have a passion, they have a problem to solve, and they go out and make it happen. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you very much.
So let's see, we've got some folks saying hi. Oh, there's my friend Cora from Hamilton. Hi, Cora. I'm so glad you could join us. Cora and I go way, way back. I won't tell you how many years we go back. And I love the organization that she works for. They're doing really important work for women in Hamilton. Janice is here from Ottawa. We've got Suzanne. Hi, Suzanne from sunny Calgary. I know it's not snowing there now. So welcome. Any questions you've got, ideas you want to share in the chat box, go ahead. Rochelle, let's talk a little bit about, before we talk about Shop and Share, let's talk a little bit about some of the fundraising ideas that you might have tried or been a part of in the past that you thought worked, that might still work today, even though our economic climate's a little bit different than it was in some of the more lucrative years. What are some ideas that you have?
Well, I think anything that is practical for people, they're willing to participate. So even if the markup on something that people use every day or food items, even if there's a bit of a markup, people are more willing to participate compared to the years of buying magazine subscriptions that nobody bothered to read or had time to read. You know, buying chocolate bars, everybody's on a diet. You know,
me too.
There's only so many cookies that one family can buy, especially if they have multiple kids in different activities and different organizations. But yeah, anything practical. I've seen, you know, pizza fundraisers, how to rate chicken fundraisers, car washes, you know, to have the kids, depending on the age, obviously, this is better for maybe a 4-H club or something, but to have the kids dressed appropriately, might I add, offer a car wash, you know, they can bring in a lot of money. I'm really a proponent as well of having the kids, again, depending on the age group, kids participate in the fundraising. For example, doing the work, going to get the bottles for the bottle drive, not just about the parents doing all the work.
I agree with you on that. And you know, one of the reasons I agree with you on that, Rochelle, is it's such a valuable learning opportunity for kids to learn about money and for kids to learn about budget, but also for them to learn about business. And there's a story I want to share because I just have so much respect for this young girl in Saskatchewan. When we were on our kindness tour, I learned about this girl, Maisie, who was in Saskatchewan, and she has a passion for helping rescue dogs. She is in love with animals and wants to make a difference through kindness to rescue dogs, and she has a passion for sewing, and she combined those two passions and started making these beautiful dog beds. And of course, you can imagine the demand was increasing, and of course there's a business side to that, that while she's raising funds and creating these beds, there's also the business side of who's paying for the material and who's paying for all the supplies. And her school, her colleagues and fellow students at school, and she's, I think, 14 now, they get involved in these sewing bees. But what I learned from interviewing her, and they've now turned it into a business model, the hotel down the street has actually bought a bunch of the beds to have their pet-friendly hotel. So they've bought the beds. She's come up with sponsorship opportunities. And I mean, she was 13 when I interviewed her. And, wow. And I love these ways of being really creative. And I think that's critical in today's market right now, is that we have to be practical, as you said. We have to be creative, and we have to make it easy. I'm seeing that people just do not want something that takes a lot of time or that's complicated. And you know, in Canada, Rochelle, we're seeing a real decline right now in volunteerism. There's fewer people volunteering. The time they can commit is less. And I don't know, what about all of you on the web platform? Are you seeing in your communities that it's a tougher struggle, more of a struggle to find those committed volunteers? And is it more of a struggle to raise funds for your organization. So I'd love you to put your comments in the chat box and we can see what's going on around the globe as we start talking about fundraising. You know, one of the, we've done a lot of fundraising, Rochelle, as you know, because you've supported our different kindness tours, and we've tried all kinds of different fundraising activities. And it's always interesting to me to find the activities where people feel engaged. And one strategy that we use that was so very powerful that I think could be rippled out to any organization listening on today's webinar is we had done the Toonie for Team Toby campaign. As you remember, we had those cutout paw prints, and one of our sponsors, Petland Canada, agreed with all their stores, 25 stores across Canada, to sell the little cutout. They're the paper, you know, paper cutout paw prints about this big, and they were being sold for $2. So if there's people listening in the US, we have a coin called the Toonie. It's a $2 coin, and that's why we called it Toonie for Team Toby. And that generated so much revenue that we were then able to ripple out to the nonprofits that we were supporting, animal rescue and children's organizations. So what I learned from that is that it's very powerful when a nonprofit group or a charity or corporate businesses like myself who are supporting nonprofits and charities, when we can work with a business and align our efforts and contacts and resources to raise money. And that worked so well for us. We were able to provide so many schools with books and presentations, and we were able to provide so many organizations with cash donations. So that might be an example of innovation and you know, involving more groups in your effort. Have you seen projects like that work well, Rochelle, in your areas?
I have, although when a lot of people are laid off, or,
Yes.
or you know, for people that are laid off, even a toonie matters sometimes.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, those types of donations for a toonie or whatever, they're happening all over the place, and I think they're still great. They're going to last for a long time because it's not a big commitment.
Yes.
I definitely like to see people engaged with the organization that they're supporting. Often, okay, for example, if I've gone into Safeway and they say, would you like to donate $5 or whatever towards the blah, blah, blah organization, I don't really know people from the blah, blah, blah organization. So I'm not as inclined to give, even though it's $2 or $5. So really, it's about creating those connections with the supporters. I agree, sure, go out and try to get the toonies or the $5 or the $50 from anyone that you can. But really, I think focusing with your core group of supporters is number one.
Yeah, you've really hit it there, Rochelle, when you talk about relationships. And I think that was part of why the campaign we did worked, because we had the staff in the store who knew us and knew the project, so they could talk about it. Now, if they didn't, if they were simply going on a script, would you like to donate $2, and they didn't know anything about the project and hadn't known us, I so agree that greatly reduces the success that you're going to have. And you've talked about something that's critical, is the relationships. And some of our best supports come from the people that love us and support us already, and they're willing to help us support us in other ways. And I think that's sometimes what happens in social profits, because we're doing organizations are doing so much, and often they're stretched beyond their means, as you know. And sometimes we forget to go back and look at who is in our circle of influence. Who do we already know that are supporting us that could perhaps support us in a different way? Or who do we know that is supporting us and knows other people that could support us in a different way? So I love relationships. We've got a couple comments coming in. I'm just going to go to the chat box. Catherine says that she's seen nonprofits struggling all over Calgary. I agree. And then Janice says there's a local rescue, Ottawa Dog Rescue, who have one dog at a time for adoption at the Westin Hotel lobby. Oh, that's so cool. And the hotel actually built a mini Parliament building as part of the dogs area. It's been very successful. It's a high-end hotel, so don't be shy to ask high-end hotels too. That's awesome. And Chipo, hi Chipo, it's great to see you online today, says my challenge is raising money for the nonprofit village I grew up in. Yeah, I see that a lot with people. One of the things I've seen people doing with sort of what I call a far away project, where it's a project that isn't happening locally and people may not have those connections, is I'm seeing an increased use of things like the social funding platforms, crowdfunding, for example. That's one way that I've seen people raising money for their organizations and their faraway projects. And I think, again, what's critical with that is what Rochelle is talking about, is making sure that you're educating people and making them feel part of a solution to what you're trying to solve. Now, I wanted to just flip over a little bit, because when you started shopandshare.ca, I mean, you started this, Rochelle, out of a need to solve a problem. People spending too much time raising dollars and not being very successful, and people getting exhausted from it. And you really wanted to capitalize on relationships that people have. So tell us about Shop and Share, because what I love about this platform, and I'm just going to give you a big shout out here, what I love about Shop and Share is when nonprofits come to work with you on this, there's no cost to them, there's no risk. I mean, it's absolutely free, which I love. And I love, again, that it's all built on relationships. So tell us a little bit more about what Shop and Share is, and maybe if you could tell us some of the ways that organizations that are registered with Shop and Share. And for those of you that are on the website right now, go and play around on there, look around at who's registered. So I'll pass it over to you, Rochelle, to talk about a little bit about that and how it's raising funds for organizations.
Okay, well, in a nutshell, let me just tell you how Shop and Share works. We'll start with that. Basically, let's say you're an organization, you need to raise funds. It doesn't matter what type of organization you are. You can be a church group or an animal rescue or a kids hockey team. It really doesn't matter. This works for everyone. All we need is one person to be our rep. You would register on shopandshare.ca. It takes, about a whole minute to register. Once your application is processed, we just go through a bit of a due diligence process on our end. You'll receive emails saying, yay, you're live. Let's start, telling your supporters. So once you're ready to start telling your supporters, we've got a whole online communication toolbox available. And that's full of pre-done, ready to go scripts, sample Twitter posts and posters, that type of thing, PDFs of different brochures. Whatever else you need, we can certainly get it for you. But the whole idea is we want to make this easy. We want to make it fast. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We just want you to be able to take the information that's there and share it with your core group of supporters, who will then hopefully be passionate enough about your organization to share it with their friends.
And so if I can just check in, so basically what happens, I do a lot of online shopping. I shop at Amazon quite a bit, especially when I'm ordering books for people that don't live in our community. We order a lot of office supplies and things for our company. So is it fair to say that if I'm going to pretend that I'm the person going shopping now, if I want to go shopping to Amazon, instead of me going on to Amazon's page, like Amazon.com or Amazon.ca, instead, as a community member, I would go on to shopandshare.ca, go on to the link for Amazon. I would go do my normal shopping as I would just as I was on Amazon. And then what's the fundraising part? I go and spend money on Amazon, and then maybe I go and spend money on a clothing store, because you have like a ton of retail shoppers that are partnering with you to help you raise money for charity. So explain that part, how they raise money. I think it's so cool.
So yes, like you said, supporters can go and buy whatever they want from Amazon or Sears or Expedia, or there's approximately 300 retailers at any given time.
Wow.
Yeah, so as long as supporters start from the Shop and Share site and they're registered, they follow the links to whichever retailer site they want. They're actually on the Amazon site or Expedia site or wherever they're going. They make their purchases. There's no markups. The prices are all the same. They get their items directly from Amazon or wherever they've purchased from. But a percentage of the money that they've spent will automatically go to the nonprofit that they chose when they registered on Shop and Share.
Beautiful. So let's play with a couple examples. I book flights all the time. I'm in the air so much. I'm renting cars because I travel to speak and I travel around the world. So I'm going to go on to shopandshare.ca, and then I'm going to get onto Expedia from there. And I know you also have tourism and travel places that are registered with you, so I can look and see who I normally do business with, do my business transaction, purchase my flight or my car rental right through Expedia like I would be doing before, but I've gone on from your website, and then I will have in advance chosen a charity that I want to support. And then immediately, as soon as I buy my plane ticket, as I always do, there's a portion that then gets allocated and raises funds for that nonprofit from that sale.
Yes, exactly. Sometimes it takes up to a week before the transaction actually appears on your online donation report. Just because of processing time and everything else. And for Expedia, as you've mentioned, you may not see the donation until after you've completed your travel.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Expedia just wants to make sure that you've been there, all is good.
Right.
But, yes, that's exactly how it works. All we're doing is we're basically redirecting existing marketing dollars into donations. So it doesn't cost the supporters anything else. It doesn't cost the charities and the nonprofits anything else. It's just simply a way to redirect marketing dollars.
Well, what I love about this is that in the business world, so as you know, you're a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, business owner as well, we often talk about what we call passive income. And passive income, for example, when speakers sell their books or their products online and they're off speaking in one part of the world and they come home and the their online shopping cart says, oh, you sold, you know, a program today. The speaker didn't have to show up to go and speak somewhere to make that sale, just like with online shopping. So what I love about it is it's passive fundraising for nonprofits where they're not having to put together that team to go and do the bingo or put together that team to do another event. This is just passively coming in throughout the year, raising funds by having people that they know who shop online anyhow, shop online as they always do, but access the websites through you.
Yes, very true. And it's surprising when I talk to some people, they say, oh, I don't really shop online. But then I hear them talking about their trip to Jamaica, and I ask, well, how did you book that? Oh, through Expedia. Or, oh, I just read this fantastic Kobo book. Oh, so you purchased a book online. Oh, yeah, I guess I did. So people think they don't shop online, but they do.
Wow, they do. Well, I'm just looking at, so I'm just actually, everyone, just so you know, I just thought, let me just go on and at first glance see who, you know, where I spend money. So I just went on to the retailers tab, I think it was called, and I'm scrolling down. I shop a lot at Staples. I've shopped at Amazon. We actually, you know, we sell our books through Amazon. I've rented cars through Avis. I've definitely stayed at Best Westerns. There's a bunch of clothing stores here that I've shopped at. I've rented cars from Budget, and the list goes on. Canada Post, that was really neat to see that there. Canon, you know, we buy toner for our printer from them. So Constant Contact, lots of you actually use Constant Contact as your email database. And then there's tourism things. So it's really interesting because I agree with you. A lot of people think, oh, I don't shop online because they see that as buying stuff. Whereas we're booking our travel all the time online, we're renting cars, all of those things. So the key, it sounds like, Rochelle, is if you're a social profit and you're going to use this kind of a platform to raise that passive income, what you want to make sure you're doing is communicating with people that you know, your friends, your family, having your board members do the same thing so that you can encourage people, you know, to actually do their shopping that they already do by going to Shop and Share so that they can pick your organization to be the recipient of the fundraising for that sale.
Absolutely. That's 100% right.
Great. Now here's some questions. So let's get those questions coming in. I see a couple that I'm going to ask, and I do have a question from someone who couldn't be here live, and I promised her I would ask you. Janice is asking, do the rescues have to be a registered nonprofit to be approved by Shop and Share?
They don't have to be a registered charity. We prefer that they are a registered nonprofit, only so that there's some accountability, so that, you know, the Wednesday night news doesn't report that, oh yeah, $4,000 was spent by this girl who wanted to buy a TV. You know, we just want to make sure that the funds are actually going to a good cause, is what it boils down to. But if there's a different individual scenario where, we've had one lady actually from our school that is raising funds for her brother's, I think it's leukemia, I want to say. She's doing a run. She wants to raise extra funds. We've told her, yeah, you can use Shop and Share for that. So she herself is not a registered nonprofit, but we know because we have that relationship that the funds are going where they're supposed to. So long story short, you do not have to be an officially registered nonprofit. It's better, but we can always chat one-on-one.
Okay, perfect. So that, I think you answered the next question. Janice was saying the rescue has been operating for 12 years, so they certainly got longevity. They've got that credibility, but they're not a nonprofit registered organization. So it sounds like that'd be a great thing for Janice to hop on a phone call with you, Rochelle, so the two of you could, so you would know more about the organization and then kind of help her with that process to get them set up.
Absolutely.
Great. And one of the things I've been doing is I don't have a nonprofit organization or a charity, but I work with so many of them. They're my client groups, and there's so many of my friends that sit on boards or raise money for their nonprofits. So part of my mission for 2015 is to really help educate people about this, because it's a great way, I think, to just have just passive income. And what I love is that there's no risk for the nonprofit and there's no cost. And it's not like they have to do all kinds of work to make it happen. You simply do the 1 minute. One of the nonprofits I love just registered a couple of weeks ago. So, literally it is 1 minute, because I asked her to let me know how easy it was and how long it took. And she said, literally, I got a couple of sips of coffee, and that's how fast it was. Now, the other thing that's really interesting, what I wanted to go back to, if anyone's on the website, feel free to join me on shopandshare.ca, where I'm looking right at the top. I was getting all distracted by all the amazing stores I can shop at here, Rochelle. But there's a tab at the far right that says info for nonprofits. I was so impressed with how much information and marketing collateral, Rochelle, that you've put together, you and your team have put together to help nonprofits be able to, once they've registered, because I'm sure we see this lots, we get registered for something, then we don't do anything with it. Yes. And it sounds like organizations have to then market and let people know that, hey, did you know there's a way that you can raise funds for our organization by doing what you do all the time without any extra work? So what are you finding are the really valuable tools? There's so many tools you've put together here to help. What are you finding are some of the must-dos as soon as an organization registers and they're going to go out and start educating people that they can shop online and raise money for that charity or nonprofit group? What are the critical tools that they should start using right away?
Social media, number one. And that's where we've started providing sample Facebook and Twitter posts, that type of thing, especially with all of the, what's the word? You know how Facebook, if you have a page, or maybe if you don't, Facebook has rules now, so that even if you have 2,000 followers, every time you make a post, Facebook decides, oh, today I'm only going to show it to 10 people or 20 people. So anyways, even with their rules in place, we find that making the posts, if we can give sample posts for people to use, that just helps it to make it a little bit easier, and they can do it more frequently. Aside from that, the PDF brochures, and we can even distribute hard copy, double-sided, full-color brochures to people, no cost. Being able to distribute those via email or handing them out at their events, leaving them on their tables when they're doing an event. You know, those have been probably the most successful.
That's actually, I never even thought of that about the events. One of the organizations that I know has registered that I'm doing some work with, they've got a few events coming up in May. It's Mental Health Week at the beginning of May, and then it's Safety Week. And so they're recognizing a few events, and I'll definitely give them that tip about making sure they have a handout or a postcard or something that people can take away and walk away with. And I think, you know, what you said about social media is so important. And here's a tip for all of you in the social profit world. Entrepreneurs, I know a lot of you do this already as part of your social media strategy. Rochelle and I do this. We've done this before. Whereas if I have something that I really want to get out through social media, I have an update or a link to a video that I really want to get some social media love, it's not uncommon for me to email people that are in my circle of influence, like Rochelle and a whole bunch of other contacts I have that are my friends and colleagues. And I might say, you know, there's an organization I love. They're raising funds for an important project. Here's a tweet that they put out. If it resonates for you, could you like it, share it, comment on it? And then what happens is we then have that one tweet that let's just use the example here that Janice had about the organization, the rescue. Imagine if there were 30 people that rescue knew that went and recirculated that same tweet. Now that tweet has gotten in front of 30 people's audiences. So it's not just always being promoted to the same group. So that's, I'm just laughing. Sorry, I got all distracted. Bonnie says, wonderful, we are already registered. Yay. That's great. So yay, Bonnie, for registering. So what else do you think, Rochelle, is really important for organizations to do when they're doing this promotion piece? Okay, did we lose you, Rochelle? Okay, let's see. I'm not sure if Rochelle can hear me, so I'm going to keep talking. And I want to take you over. Let me go over to the website again. On Shop and Share, she's also got a whole bunch of tips and ideas. Now, let me just find where those are. There we are. There's a whole bunch of downloads. If you keep scrolling down, there's a bunch of downloads like posters, pre-written tweets and posts. There are also letters that you can use, sample letters that you can use. For example, sending a letter that you create for your board members to be able to share out with their contacts is another great idea around being able to communicate that message to folks around how they can help support your organization. So one thing that I'm going to do, of course, I'm not registered because I'm not a nonprofit organization, but I know so many of them. Here's one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to really make a commitment to when nonprofits are using this platform and sharing that they're registered here, and did you know that your online shopping can make a difference and raise money for the charity. I really want to be tweeting and retweeting and commenting on Facebook posts like that, because I think it's really important to get the information out there for people. Now, I'm just going to check in with people if anyone has questions. I think we lost Rochelle. We're having a bit of a technology issue, but she's working on coming back on. So if you can type your questions into the chat box so that I can create those for her as soon as she gets back on. But I want to share a couple of other fundraising ideas. I went out to people that I know in social profit organizations and said, what are you doing to raise funds for your organization? What's working, what's not? So I heard a lot of them saying, we're not doing this yet, but we're really interested in crowdfunding campaigns. And I've actually been involved in a number of crowdfunding campaigns, and it's been really, really interesting to see how those are working. There's a lot of different platforms, but I've actually committed to doing a webinar with 3 different experts from 3 different crowdfunding platforms to actually talk about, and this will be crowdfunding for social profits, not for businesses. So if you can type in the chat box if that's of interest to you, would you be interested in hearing 3 experts who have crowdfunding platforms come on and talk with you about how to set up a crowdfunding campaign for your social profit, or your community event, or somebody in the community that you're trying to raise money for. Rochelle gave an example of somebody who had an illness that they're trying to raise money for. Let me know if that's of interest to you on the crowdfunding, because we'll definitely push that forward and get that going right away if it is. Now, here's some of the other things that I'm seeing social profits do to raise funding. One of them is that they're just communicating with the business audience better. See, we often make an assumption that people will know we're a nonprofit and therefore we need money. Now, I know from the business world, that's not necessarily the case. We may not assume that you need more resources or funding. So we got to let businesses know we're out there and what our needs are. And we have to communicate that with passion and excitement. And I think the best way that I see social profit organizations doing this, nonprofits, charities, community groups, even school councils, which can also use Shop and Share website to do fundraising, by the way. When you tell your story, that's what catches people. When you tell your story and it touches someone's heart, you know, somebody says, wow, this is amazing what this organization does. When you can speak from a place of emotion, an emotive kind of story, telling your story through video, as Rochelle was saying earlier, we've got to tell our stories in so many different ways: video, social media, blogging, traditional media, TV, radio, print. We've got to tell our story. And that helps with one thing. Once people understand your organization and you tell their story, hey, Rochelle, welcome back.
Technology great.
Technology's great, but I love it that you can just pop back in. So we were just actually talking about, there was a lot of interest too. People want to learn more about crowdfunding. We were talking about the importance of social profit, nonprofit organizations telling their story, going back to what you said, that they've got to build that relationship because in fairness, I'm a business, you're a business. I don't just assume that every nonprofit organization needs money. I've met some social profits and organizations who get really great funding, and they don't need money, they need time. They need volunteers. Or maybe they don't need money or time, they need a place in the community to operate. They need space. So part of what can happen is if nonprofits are continually sharing their story, it's going to build relationships with the business community. But the other thing it's going to do is it's going to let people know who you are and what you need. Is that a fair statement from the Shop and Share perspective?
Absolutely. You put it out, you tell people exactly what you need, and they'll be able to help you better. A lot of people love the Calgary Humane, but they don't know the best way to help. And sometimes the Calgary Humane just needs some old blankets, you know, but unless they communicate that, people don't know.
Yeah, that's really important. And I know on the shopandshare.ca, you can go up and put your profile. Like, there's a lot of space on the website, isn't there, for organizations to, when they register, to actually talk about themselves?
Absolutely. There's a lot of space. We probably in the next couple of months will be sending some information about encouraging nonprofits to use that space and update it and make sure that all the information is current, tell people what they're looking for and how they can best support them.
Beautiful. Yeah, I just put one of the organizations I love and do a lot of work with and support, Some Other Solutions, Society for Crisis Prevention, is in Fort McMurray. So I was just going through punching in organizations that I know to see who's registered. So I love it. You know, there's the description of the organization, and then they can add, there's a tab that says fund list. You know, they can add some of the things that they want to direct the donation to. So tell us a little bit about that. What's that mean, the fund list and directed donations?
That's something that we've been working on for the last few years, and it finally came to life probably about a year ago. Basically what it was is some of the organizations, big or small, they had specific funds or people or events that they were trying to raise money for, specifically like a playground fund, for example, compared to a whole school board. So we found a way to allow supporters to select the specific funds, and that way the money still goes to the organization as a whole, but it's then up to the organization to direct those funds to the right fund. But yeah, people are more, again, it's trying to find out what, not only what you need and communicating that to supporters, but making it possible so that your supporters can support you in ways that they're passionate about. And maybe if they don't want to necessarily support the organization as a whole, but they want to support this one little element that they really love, the music program, or you know, the dog jog, or whatever it is, they can do that through the specific funds.
That's great. So it can work for the kind of the organization as a whole, events that you're having that are targeted for one specific event that you might hold once a year. I love that. And the other question I had, when organizations are going on and registering, and like I said, it's super easy to do that, and it's great. I went in and searched. I mean, boy, there's so many organizations that I know that are listed here. You can just do a search and punch in organizations' names, and or also go under the nonprofits tab and find them that way through a search. And then I also see that you feature nonprofits. Can you tell us what it means when you say featured nonprofit?
Yep. So every month we choose a nonprofit to sort of talk about and give some extra exposure to. We just find it's a great opportunity for, it's usually smaller organizations that we like to feature. The organizations that don't have staff, it's all volunteer run, but they're trying their darndest to get the word out to their supporters. So we like to give them a little extra boost. So for that 1 month, they'll get the extra awareness through our emails and on the website and our social media platforms, but they'll also receive extra donations that come in that aren't earmarked for organizations or other organizations. Typically extra purchases through Amazon that Amazon's one of our only weird retailers that doesn't track donations like all the others. So there are extra donations that come in through Amazon, and I won't go through the details, but those go to the featured nonprofit each month.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I'm just looking at the featured nonprofits here. It's so exciting because I see so many that I know. Eric, and I'm just going to mention this because a lot of people listening might be thinking, well, do I fit into this? So, I go through the list of the featured nonprofits right now. We have the Air Cadets, we have the Air Cadet Squadron, Pathfinders, A Dog's Life Rescue, Abbey Cat Adoptions. Then we also have the Alberta SPCA, the Chinese Canadian Friendship Center, a dance academy in Alberta. We have Moncton Boys and Girls Club, early learning centers, an Aboriginal Learning Center. Charity, there is an organization that supports families of ill or injured children. So really, there's a seniors lodge. So just on the one page of the featured organizations, I also love that they're so widely dispersed. There's such a great range, Rochelle, of the types of organizations that are listed here.
Like I said, this was built for any nonprofit, and we find actually shopandshare.ca works better for smaller to mid-sized nonprofits. The Canadian Cancer Societies, with all the staff in place, they do things that work for them. We do things that work for the smaller groups.
Now, one of the gals couldn't come online today, but I know she'll be listening to the recording. She was wondering, does Shop and Share, besides the website, do you have ways that you also communicate or sort of, I guess, market the Shop and Share's platform to help get the word out from your end to support nonprofits that way?
Yes, we're starting to do that more and more all the time, but we're very, very active on social media, both on Facebook and Twitter. When a new supporter signs up, we send a series of, I think it's 4 emails, weekly emails. They're not long, they're just quick and to the point, because we know people are, they don't have enough time these days to read anything. But getting these weekly email reminders really helps the supporters to say, yeah, I've registered. Oh, right, I've registered. And then the following week, oh, right, I've registered. Now I should go on and make a purchase. So we definitely have taken on some of the legwork as well to help the supporter or the nonprofits remind their supporters. But again, with anything, if the nonprofits themselves don't put in a little bit of effort and keep reminding their supporters as well, they're not going to see as much success.
Yes, I actually had a brainstorming session with a few nonprofits that I know. So I said, what would be 3 things that you would do right away to get the word out? So one of them actually had a neat idea. She said, we send a lot of emails out. Our nonprofit is involved in a lot of email communication. That's their biggest form of sharing news. And she said we could actually have all of our staff and board members put a little, you know how you put a note and a link in your email signature?
Yes.
So they were going to work on actually adding right below where their name is, above the company information or organized information, a little bit of information that we're registered on Shop and Share. You can go shop online as you always do. And if you do it through this link, it generates money for our funds for our organization's programs to serve more clients. So that was one thing that I thought was really cool, that they were already thinking about it.
Yeah, in fact, we learned that trick from one of our organizations that we work with. And I thought, brilliant. I mean, we think to do it in our own personal emails or our corporate emails. But yeah, I thought it was a great idea.
Absolutely. And then social media, as you said, and another organization, when I was saying, how would you help get the word out besides sending letters? And, you know, now I can go back and say, make sure you have printed information about it at every event that you go to. One of them is just in the process of getting new business cards, and their business cards for this particular organization are pretty simple, just sort of a name, the organization name on the one side with a phone number and a website, and then the backspace, they don't have anything. And they were going to put some quote that they really liked. And I said, hey, what we could do instead on the back of our card is put the Shop and Share information. And this particular group mainly does events in the community. So they're out in front of the public all the time. I thought that was a great idea.
That is great. You know, use the space that you have, use whatever communication tools you're already currently using. Just make them a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anything else, Rochelle, that you wanted to let us know about Shop and Share, or thoughts that you had to help nonprofits raise funds for their nonprofit organization?
Just reminders, you know, sending, not nagging reminders, but once every couple of weeks or however you feel comfortable, just remind your supporters, hey, you know, if you're booking travel this season, make sure you do it through Shop and Share. Hey, if you're buying new winter clothing, make sure you do it through Shop and Share. Supporters are more than happy to help, especially when they're going to be buying these things anyways. So just gently reminding them, I think, is a valuable tool.
Yes. Yeah, you've got these relationships established already. And, you know, I find a lot of times when, even as a business owner myself, when social profits, nonprofits come up to me and say, you know, could you help me get the word about this? It allows me to help them in a way that I might not be able to help them financially at that time, or I may not be able to give them time, but certainly I can help on that. But what I've learned, and I know you and I have talked about this a lot, Rochelle, in business, if we don't ask for what we need from people, they just don't know how to help us. So that communication is so important. And, you know, the other piece that I was thinking is that sometimes in nonprofit organizations, and I know this because I've sat on lots of boards and I've run nonprofits in my past, is sometimes we forget to ask the people who are closest to us. So we go out to our, you know, external list, our donors and supporters, and we forget to say to our board members or our volunteers or our staff, here's what we're doing. You know, can we all come up with a plan of every month we let 2 more people know about this, or 10 more people know about this? So don't forget the people that are closest to you.
And it's surprising. A lot of people all of a sudden will click in, well, yeah, I volunteer on this board, and sure, I'll buy a shirt through Shop and Share. And then they realize, wait, we buy a ton of things through our corporate accounts for, you know, we need different clothing or promotional items or photocopies from Staples or whatever it is. They, you know, once you bring corporate supporters in through board members or different supporters, the donations really do add up quickly.
Yes, that's actually a fantastic strategy, Rochelle. Right now, for those of you that are in Canada, you know that companies are pulling back right now with donations and funding, and there's not as much openness right now. Ability, I think it's more about ability to actually fund more things. But my goodness, I know I do a lot of work with corporations. They're my primary client group. So I know that if I was to talk to some of the corporations I do training and speaking for and said, you know, are your favorite nonprofits, the nonprofits that you already support, are they registered here? And, you know, I think a lot of the businesses I work with would gladly educate their employees to say, here's a way our company can help. And it's not costing the company anyway. They're already buying equipment and booking people's travels and buying office supplies. So it's not doing anything different other than entering the place they do their shopping from a different site, which is Shop and Share. I think that's a great idea about corporate, Rochelle. Thank you for raising that.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with, here's a few more fundraising ideas that people came up with, and then I'm gonna end with another tip around Shop and Share. So here's a couple of other ideas that nonprofits said they're doing that work. One nonprofit said she is working with 3 local hotels. It's the same chain, and I can't remember who it is. I think it's Super 8 or Best Western in their community, and they're doing a top up for change. And they have created a partnership with the hotel that whenever somebody pays for their room at the front desk, and it comes to say $147.28, the staff says, would you like to top up for change to support this organization? And then when they top up for that, from that dollar amount to the next dollar, and it's whatever 70 some odd cents, that 70 cents goes to the organization. But this nonprofit said that top up for change in the year has paid for a staff's position.
Wow.
So those little 25 cents and 75 cents add up, and now they've gone out and they've started talking to some of the places that their staff go a lot. There's a couple of restaurants and coffee shops that their staff have meetings at and that they go after work, and now they have those restaurants involved as well, and they have basically 7 local businesses doing top up for change for their organization. The businesses love it because there's no additional work for them. You know, and it's not coming out of their pocket, and it's engaging their customers to help a community cause. So that was one idea I love. How do you like that one, Michelle?
Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. Yeah.
And then I had another one that had a cool idea. They're just doing this right now. She said, we're doing a garage sale. They approached an office supply store and 2 other businesses that just have like gifts and books and things like that, kind of a mixed business. It's a small community, and the nonprofit approached the 3 businesses to see if they would do a garage sale together. So the businesses just went through items that they had on clearance and they just couldn't move anymore, and they were just sitting there. They went and cleared out their supply closets. They gave the products to the nonprofit. The nonprofit had a big garage sale outside of one of the stores, and the stores provided, you know, donuts and treats and things. And that's what they're planning again this year. It was so good last year. They're doing it again, and it's of course a way of building the relationships with the business community.
Yeah, I think there's probably bigger money sometimes to be made or donated, brought in from corporate sponsorships instead of individuals. Individuals get harped a lot to donate to different organizations, but corporations are always looking for different marketing opportunities, and so a lot of these are just perfect for them. It's a great fit.
Exactly. And of course, now I'm going to go back to this organization and say, don't forget for your garage sale to have something printed, like the tip that you said, to have something for people to take away. So the people that come to the garage sale who may never have heard of this organization, they just happen to be walking by the garage sale and bought something. Now they know about the organization, and they know what they're looking for in terms of time, in terms of program needs, kind of that wish list that you had said with the Humane Society, putting out a wish list. That's really important. Vanessa says here, or Janice says, yes, crowdfunding would be something we'd be interested in learning more about. Vanessa says, great information with an exclamation mark. Thank you. Vanessa from Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Wood Buffalo. Hi, Vanessa. I'm coming up to Fort McMurray next week, actually. So that's great. I'm really glad that you're seeing the value in this. And you know, part of my mission and part of Fuse Social's mission is really to help spread word about innovation and capacity building, and what you're doing to support nonprofits, Rochelle, through shopandshare.ca is a perfect example of innovation and capacity building all rolled up into one.
Thank you.
So I love this. And for all of you that have joined us, again, I'm going to encourage you to right away go on to Facebook, and I will put the links with the follow-up email that comes out to all of you. But please go and follow shopandshare.ca on Facebook and Twitter, because they're also doing some very, very interesting things around capitalizing on observances. So I'm going to give an example. One of the things I've seen you doing, Rochelle, with your team is capitalizing on certain events of the year, like Mental Health Week or Bully Prevention Week or Seniors Awareness Week, whatever it is. You're using those special holidays and observances as a way to draw attention to nonprofits that provide services to that group or in that area. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's all about just increasing the awareness and the exposure, not just for individual nonprofits sometimes, but for the events themselves. It's all goodwill, and
Yes.
yeah, it's all beneficial.
And I think if you know, I always say learn from people who are doing really good at something. So if you go on and follow shopandshare.ca, you'll actually see how they're using social media. A lot of nonprofit organizations, social media is one more thing they have to do. And they don't have a dedicated social media person on the team. And it's really tough to get it all done. So if you go and follow shopandshare.ca, watch what they're posting, watch how they're posting, get on there and comment and, you know, comment and retweet and share, because the other thing that happens is that as you build influence with shopandshare.ca, you're also building influence and awareness of your organization with their big retailers, because you're often tagging Amazon or, you know, Got Junk or one of the insurance companies. So it's the way that you're doing that is also really helping bring awareness to the social profit sector.
Definitely. Yeah, great idea.
Well, Rochelle, you are just a wealth of information, and I love what you are doing to help nonprofit organizations, school councils, community groups, charities, and you found a problem and you created a solution. And what you've done through this solution is you have brought relationships between the corporate and the retail world and the social profit sector. And I think that's just a great way to make a big difference in the world. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you, Charmaine, for everything that you do. You are just incredible. And I'm so happy that we know each other. And thank you for doing the webinar.
Thank you. And Janice says here, thank you so much. Lots of exclamation marks. This information is precious. It will help many animals. You're so welcome. Stay in touch with us, everyone. Watch the download again if you need to hear the tips again. We'll be doing a blog and an article to summarize what we've said and provide you with all the links that we promised. Stay in touch with us about what your needs are. You know, if we know what your needs are, we can be a champion for your organization's message. So that's the big takeaway. Again, thank you so much, Rochelle, and to your team members at shopandshare.ca.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And to Fuse Social, we love the work you're doing in the Wood Buffalo region to help organizations learn more about capacity building, sustainability, and innovation. So always appreciate your support in helping get the word out. Thank you. And have a great day. Thank you all for joining us. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.